For more than 2 decades, Mike Rowe didn't just host a television show, he carried a message that quietly pushed back against an entire cultural shift. At a time when college degrees were being marketed as the only respectable path forward, he was climbing into sewer systems, crawling through industrial tunnels, and standing shoulder to shoulder with welders, crab fishermen, and sanitation workers, telling America that this work mattered. But here's the part that rarely gets examined. What happens when a person becomes the face of an idea? When your identity stops being just yours and starts belonging to a movement? This isn't a scandal story. It's not a dramatic fall. It's something subtler and more revealing. Because recently, Mike Rowe made a decision that forces a deeper question. Not about his career, but about the cost of carrying a cultural identity for 20 years. Most people see the version of Mike Rowe that television preserved, the hard hat, the calm smile in chaotic environments, the unmistakable baritone narrating jobs. Most Americans never see up close. Dirty jobs made him look almost indestructible, comfortable in filth, relaxed in risk, amused by discomfort. He didn't just visit difficult workplaces, he absorbed them, and viewers trusted him because he never mocked the workers. He respected them. But television turns repeated behavior into identity, and identity into expectation. Over time, Mike Rowe stopped being a host trying new experiences. He became the narrator of American grit itself, and once that happens, the audience stops separating the man from the message. Before the oil rigs and septic tanks, there was theater, opera training, a communications degree, a voice carefully shaped for performance. He was a storyteller long before he was ever inside a crawl space. That distinction matters, because he wasn't simply documenting blue-collar life. He was interpreting it, translating it, giving it narrative dignity. When Dirty Jobs exploded in 2003, that interpretation resonated at exactly the right cultural moment. The country was changing, education pipelines were narrowing, and suddenly here was someone saying in plain language that dignity didn't live in a diploma. It lived in effort. That message didn't just entertain people, it anchored them. But when a message begins to anchor people, responsibility expands. After Dirty Jobs ended, many television hosts would have pivoted to something lighter. Mike Rowe did the opposite. He leaned deeper into the mission. He launched the Mike Rowe Works Foundation, funded scholarships for skilled trades, testified before Congress, and consistently challenged institutional narratives about success. The show had ended. The movement had not, and slowly, the cultural weight shifted from episodic exposure to permanent representation. He wasn't just hosting anymore, he was representing. And representing something in a polarized environment is exhausting. Let's pause here. There is no scandal, no public meltdown, no secret collapse. What makes this story compelling is accumulation, the kind of pressure that builds gradually and invisibly. The kind that doesn't trend, but settles into the body over time, and that kind of weight is often heavier. As the years went on, Mike Rowe became more than a television personality. He became a cultural signal. To some, he represented common sense and work ethic. To others, he symbolized resistance to institutional narratives. In a divided environment, that symbolic role creates constant scrutiny. Every interview becomes layered, every sentence analyzed, every silence interpreted. And while all of that was happening, he was still traveling relentlessly, still speaking, still advocating. Years of physically demanding environments add up. But the emotional strain can be even heavier, because when you become the face of dignity in labor, you implicitly challenge systems that benefit from a different story, and that tension does not turn off when the cameras do. The announcement. Recently, Mike Rowe shared something measured and controlled. He's stepping back from the relentless pace. Doctors advised him to slow down. The accumulated physical toll is real. Leadership of his foundation will transition. Not because the mission failed, not because the message weakened, but because sustainability matters. For someone whose public identity has been built around endurance and effort, slowing down can feel like contradiction. When your brand is grit, rest can look like retreat, but in reality, it is recalibration. There's a pattern with public figures who become symbols. Audiences freeze them in time. We prefer the version we first admired. We resist evolution because it disrupts our own stability. But human beings change. Bodies age. Energy shifts. If you ignore that long enough, burnout forces the adjustment for you. What Mike Rowe appears to be doing isn't collapse. It's preemptive self-preservation. Less dramatic. More disciplined. Mike Rowe didn't fall. He didn't unravel. He adjusted before the unraveling could begin. And maybe that's the deeper message beneath the surface. Strength isn't just about pushing forward. Sometimes it's about recognizing limits before those limits push back. Because even symbols are human, and sometimes the most honest act of grit isn't working harder. It's stepping back, deliberately, before the weight you carried for years starts carrying you. I'm curious what you think about this. Was this a necessary recalibration, or something more? Leave your thoughts below. If you value thoughtful documentaries that go beneath the surface, make sure you're subscribed, and share this with someone who remembers dirty jobs. See you next time.